Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a pretty unsettling truth about the tools we use every single day to figure out if technology is basically making us too coddled to stay wealthy. We're going to look at the invisible forces shaping our daily lives and ask a really uncomfortable question. Is our obsession with total convenience actually costing us our ability to think?
Okay, let's just rip the Band-Aid off right up front. You are getting dumber. And hey, it's not just you. This is a massive global phenomenon. For the first time since we actually started measuring this stuff, generations are literally getting less intelligent over time. Decades of human progress are just stalling out, and it's happening right as the world is getting way more expensive, highly competitive, and infinitely more complex.
Let's dig into Part 1, the intelligence reversal.
So before things took a weird turn, humanity actually had a really good thing going. For most of the 20th century, we saw this thing called the Flynn effect. Basically, our measured intelligence, our IQ, reliably crept up by about 3 points every single decade. We were inventing computers, connecting the globe, and just generally getting smarter. But then, right around the mid-2000s, that reliable upward trend just completely hits a wall, and in a lot of places, it actually reverses. We're talking unprecedented drops in math and reading scores across major developed countries, the UK, Norway, and right here in the US. Now, the knee-jerk reaction is always to just blame kids these days and point a finger at their smartphones, right? But the data shows older generations are catching this collective case of the stupid too.
Which brings us to Section 2, the frictionless trap.
If we can't just blame screen time for this, what's actually going on? Well, the real culprit is built directly into our corporate engineering. We are totally caught in what we can call the frictionless trap. This is a modern market dynamic where our tools are actively removing the exact friction that made us capable in the first place. You see, most modern tech hasn't actually expanded what humans can do, it's just made everything incredibly easy. And as it turns out, friction is exactly what builds the muscle of critical thinking.
This quote really hits the nail on the head when it comes to what we're facing as consumers. In a fight between easier and better, the market overwhelmingly favors easier. The market doesn't reward products that make you smarter, it rewards products that make you think less. Companies literally profit more when you're just operating on autopilot, because easier scales faster and brings in way more cash than better ever could.
To really picture this shift, just think about a normal, everyday chore. Remember balancing a checkbook? Look, nobody misses doing it for sure, but the act of manually reconciling every transaction forced a really high level of financial awareness. You had to physically look at every single dollar you spent. It was friction. Now, compare that to a modern buy now, pay later system that is engineered from the ground up to be a zero-friction experience. The whole point is to separate you from your spending decisions, so you don't pause, you don't calculate, and you definitely don't think. Frictionless consumption means more revenue for them and a lot less thinking for you.
And that perfectly tees up Part 3, losing the figuring out muscle. This relentless obsession with making life easier has essentially killed our figuring things out muscle. Because we've built this incredibly user-friendly world, we've hidden all the messy plumbing of how things actually work behind these beautiful, clean interfaces. Take kids who grow up with tablets. They often lack totally basic troubleshooting skills because the device was engineered so they'd never have to fix anything. Their behavior as consumers and even as students is totally coddled. Every awkward point of friction is smoothed over with a clear rubric, a step-by-step tutorial, or an algorithm that just autoplay the next video. So what happens? When they finally face an awkward, unfamiliar problem without an obvious right answer, they just experience total paralysis.
And the real-world fallout from this? It's actually kind of terrifying. Half of all managers are now saying that the recent hires completely lack the basic initiative to figure things out on day one of a real job. When they get handed a task without a tutorial, they literally just freeze. Independently wrestling with a problem just wasn't something they were ever rewarded for, and now it is seriously impacting the workforce. Let's look at how this explodes into an even bigger crisis in Section 4, the AI illusion. Right now, AI is being hyped up to us as this massive leap forward for society, like it's going to enhance human thinking. But the data tells a completely different story. It's really just functioning as a cheap way to replace thinking altogether. Get this, a staggering 86% of university students are already using generative AI.
And here's the absolute kicker. More than half of those users are leveraging it specifically to cheat. Just think about the long-term impact there. We have a massive cohort of students passing through the education system who are completely bypassing the exact friction they need to build real problem-solving skills. They aren't learning how to think through tough problems, they're literally just learning how to prompt a machine to do it for them. And that doesn't just magically fix itself at graduation. It translates straight into a fundamentally broken job market. Think about it. Step 1. Applicants use AI to blindly blast out hundreds of generic resumes without a second thought. Step 2. Employers use their own AI filters to auto-reject the vast majority of those resumes before a human being even glances at them. So we end up with this absurd system where no humans ever think, learn, or meaningfully interact. We're systematically stripping away every layer of the world that used to teach people how to think, and we're paying top dollar for it while calling it progress.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, the invisible architecture.
Because the market instantly punishes any business that actually tries to add friction back in, like a tougher school curriculum or a credit card that actually makes you pause before spending, we're basically left to survive in an economy that is actively trying to automate our intelligence away. So how do you actually protect your wealth and your career when software keeps getting better at doing the routine stuff? You have to swim upstream. First off, you've got to recognize that being genuinely good at figuring things out is hands down your most valuable skill right now. It is incredibly rare. You need to consciously stop relying on those frictionless, one-click solutions. Force yourself to look past the clean UI and really understand the messy plumbing of the systems you're using. Basically, you have to become the rare person who keeps their initiative and actually understands the invisible architecture of the world around us.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought for today's explainer. It's a little gut check to see if you've fallen into the trap yourself. When the system goes down, when the tutorial ends, and when that magical one-click button completely disappears, will you still know how to do the math?